Here with Denton Davidson, Sam Eckmann, and Marcus James Dixon, and we are from Gold Derby. And we're going to be recapping the first night of the Creative Arts Emmy Awards for 2020. This year, the Emmys are spread across 6 nights over a 7-day stretch. Normally, they are 3 nights. Previously, they used to be 2 nights up until a few years ago. So it's a whole week of Emmy shenanigans and fun. So these first 4 ceremonies are being presented on the Emmys.com website or on YouTube and Facebook. So we got pre-recorded speeches. Marcus, what did you think of how the ceremony went?
I mean, I liked it. It's not what I would want to happen. What I would want is everyone to be in the theater, but that can't happen in 2020. So they did their best. Everyone's speeches were great. I don't understand why some people didn't submit speeches. That was a little weird. I think that happened twice, and I'm like, could you not? Don't bother. But it was good. Nicole Byer, I thought, was hilarious. I laughed out loud a few times. I love when she's like, "If you don't like me, I'm sorry. I'm gonna be here all week long, in the same dress." So that was good.
And Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I thought they did the best with the situation as they could. I also thought Nicole Byer was amazingly funny and a great choice to host this. I was very confused why the Apollo 11 sound team didn't get 2 different speeches. They played the same. They won both sound mixing and sound editing, and the same speech played twice. So I wish they had done something different there. But I think if everyone has to be at home, this is kind of the best you can do with that kind of setup.
Yeah, I imagine they had the option of sending in additional speeches or having anyone else on the sound team send in a speech, but I guess they decided that what was best would be to play the same thing twice in case they won. I feel like that was maybe, what was that, the only political speech that we got? Where he said to keep money out of politics and go vegan. But I guess we heard it twice. So, Denton, how do you feel about how the ceremony went?
I thought it was good. I liked the pacing of it. It felt like I wasn't bored throughout it. I thought Nicole was great. I think it's really difficult to make someone at home laugh when you have no audience at all on yourself in front of you. So I thought she did a really good job. And I liked that they had clips of everything. So every category, no matter what it was, we did get those little clips. And that's always nice because that doesn't always happen in live telecasts.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I ever laughed, but it was nice to see those clips and, pay some extra attention to the Emmys that we discussed, all year long at Gold Derby. So for the next 4 days, we'll be on at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time to discuss the day's winners and then also preview the next day's ceremony. These are all going to be live, so we can throw up comments as they come in, like this one here. Gabriel says American Factory didn't even recorded a speech. Strange.
So, yeah, what's that about?
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of the speeches too. I mean, it's obviously people, they all sent in speeches, right? I'm right? So even the ones that won, they weren't like super excited because they didn't know if they really won. So they're just kind of like, yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, it wasn't exactly heartfelt because it was sort of generic.
Right.
Same
I wonder what's going to happen to all of these dozens and dozens of speeches that exist in the world now. Like, what if these get released one day and you see people thanking the Academy for an Emmy they didn't actually win?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. We've got a comment. So this doesn't make us look great, but there you have it. So there's a possible reason why we did not get a speech there. I imagine. My understanding is that the academies are cracking down and we'll see less overlap going forward with stuff like American Factory being at the Oscars and the Emmys. I expected these speeches to actually be a bit more sardonic, self-deprecating about how they didn't know if they had won or not at the time of recording. I thought we would have gotten that joke in every single one, and we actually got it not once. So maybe we'll see that on the nights to come.
Maybe if you win an Emmy, you can be sarcastic, Riley.
Exactly.
I will mention one more thing about the show itself. some of the presenters didn't dress up at all, and it's like they just woke up and they were just wearing their daily, workout clothes. I didn't like that. I thought, you're on the Emmys, granted the Creative Arts virtual ceremony, but still, make an effort.
I mean, Marcus, you clearly feel like you need to make an effort.
Yeah, I was about to get on here in my pajamas, and I saw an email from Marcus saying he's putting on a tux. So I had to grab a jacket. Some people are complacent in this COVID-19 world that we're living in.
I am so sick of wearing pajamas every day. This was like, I had to dress up. I had to.
Well, maybe there was no formal thing sent out. Like they should have had your email, Marcus, to wear something nice. They're all used to, they're all used to doing these COVID videos where you just roll out of bed and record something.
All right, so let's move on to some analysis. Apollo 11 won 3 awards, Cheer won 2 awards, Drag Race 2. We had 17 categories presented tonight. Denton, broadly, do you have any thoughts on the winners?
Yeah, just sort of a funny thought, I guess, about Drag Race. I mean, probably even more than Nicole Byer. My favorite part of the show that I thought was the funniest is just hearing the voiceover guy say the nominees, and he's like, RuPaul's Drag Race, I'm that bitch. And he said it over and over and over. And to me, that was kind of the most enjoyable part of the show, listening to it.
Yeah, I was surprised by how RuPaul really rallied this year. RuPaul's Drag Race won casting for the first time. It won directing for the first time.
No,
Editing is the first one. It's their first award in a few years. Queer Eye has been winning these awards the last couple of years. And Queer Eye really came to a halt this year, only picking up the series award. I'm predicting the Fab Five to take host, or at least that's the prediction that I've logged in the Gold Derby Prediction Center. So I'm not feeling great about that.
Yeah, I don't know. RuPaul's Drag Race seems pretty strong I mean, they did lose directing. Cheer stole that from under them, but I thought they did pretty well this evening, winning in places they hadn't before.
I will say it's kind of ironic, RuPaul winning casting in a season where the casting really came under fire because one of the contestants had to be disqualified. So it's just ironic. But as you said, Riley, this is the first time, right, winning casting?
Yeah, because it went to Born This Way the first year, and then it's been going to Queer Eye the last couple.
So it's I can see it more of like an overall series win as opposed to this, specific season.
Although I will say that, because I watched that show very religiously, and that crop of contestants this year, all like every single one of them popped. Usually you watch Drag Race and there's like several of them that often go home early that don't really connect, and all of them really kind of came alive. They picked a great smattering of people to be on it this year.
Yeah, at this first ceremony, I was wondering how much we would see kind of 2020 come into play. I think about a couple of years ago when Anthony Bourdain died, and then suddenly Parts Unknown just swept in a way that it never had before. It won 6 awards, which was equal to what I had won the previous 5 years. It won in 4 categories that it had never won before. So I was wondering how much, we would see, the various things that are impacting 2020 manifest in these awards, whether people would be so influenced by what's going on outside of television, whether we would have seen Black Lives Matter really manifest, whether we would have seen people go for more escapist fare to get away from dealing with the pandemic and their own lives. I feel like overall the winners they largely felt like what we would get in any other year. Do you guys feel the same way?
Specifically that short form nonfiction reality category where you had kind of 4 political minded, entries. It was I don't have the list. It was The Daily Show, Full Frontal, Pose, and RuPaul's Drag Race. And then the one that wins is Cosmos, creating Cosmos, like the online thing, which is, to your point, that would win in any other year. So I guess the voters are like, why not this year?
Yeah. Same thing too with David Attenborough winning for narrator win when they could have, they could have finally given Angela Bassett something or gone for Lupita Nyong'o, Chiwetel Ejiofor, but they just kind of went with the old standby again. So there were some choices that just felt pretty standard in terms of what we get the Emmys, but they sort of did a lot with highlighting the Hollywood for Black Lives moment, talking about, it was like they put stuff in outside of the awards to sort of highlight what the TV Academy is dealing with right now, what the conversations are right now.
And some of that could be vote splitting too. I mean, there's, you've got a handful. They really broadened the nominations this year. So I had Angela Bassett winning. She was one of my underdogs. I was hoping to pull out an upset, but and then you have people like Leah Remini who won again. So they are kind of, they did, sort of stick with their formula.
Back to Angela Bassett for a second. I was this close to switching to her this morning when the prediction center closed. And at the last second, I'm just like, David Attenborough, he wins this repeatedly. Why not now? Like, why would they choose to give it to someone else now? So I just kept him, and I was right. But I would have loved anyone in that category. That was a great category where there were really no losers.
Well, I think you say why now, and I think, because we do have this year that is so unprecedented. But it's seeming like that's not necessarily the case at the Emmys. Another category I was watching was in the documentary score category, where we have the first Black woman nominated for the Home Show on Apple, and then we also had Becoming with Michelle Obama, and instead, they went for a white winner. Although I imagine there have not been that many women winning that category, so maybe they're making some progress.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of not a great evening for Apple because the Beastie Boys story was their big contender and it got shut out. There were a lot of like popular, I think, contenders that got shut out, like Apple TV's Beastie Boys story, and then Tiger King really, struck out tonight. And so it's kind of a referendum on like, oh, this was popular, but we don't really care about this. It doesn't quite have the snob appeal we're looking for still. It seems like there still is an air of that with the voter.
Right. I still think Tiger King can win series because that's going to be revealed on Saturday night. The Last Dance didn't win either of its Emmys tonight. Tiger King lost 5, but the other 3 in that category, the series category, weren't nominated tonight. So it's kind of like all 5 are still going into Saturday, where we don't really know because they're all none of them have won anything yet. So it's very interesting. And if The Last Dance had won at least one of its categories, I would be like, oh yeah, that's it. But it lost as well. So it's I can't wait to see that category on Saturday. That's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I thought McMillions would have taken writing. But it is strange how they're splitting up some of these categories across the nights. I mean, this is supposed to be the reality and nonfiction night, but some are still held for Saturday and that kind of thing.
I don't get that.
There's something about seeing the short clips before every category too. There was a few categories tonight where just from the clip, I was like, oh man, I screwed that up. Like they're like just the cinematography awards, just like the short clips that they show, you can just tell who's gonna win. And I wish I would have watched short clips like that before I hit the final submit button on my predictions.
For me, it was not realizing that Scientology and the Aftermath had ended.
Yeah.
And she said, thanks for giving this to us for our finale. And I was like, oh, okay, well.
That's a good show. And that's an example of a show, noticing this was a brand new category, right? Hosted nonfiction series.
It's rebranding.
Okay.
It's no longer informational.
A rebrand. Okay.
But then I guess it's also kind of reclassifying. Like we wouldn't have had, I guess comedians in cars getting coffee has been kind of jumping around.
Yeah, it has. I think Deadliest Catch jumped around a lot between all these. There are a lot of nonfiction documentary categories. I mean, let's just be honest. And if you can jump from one to another year to year, maybe that means there's too many categories.
I think so.
Potential.
I mean, that we have the Emmys spread across 6 nights.
Yeah.
And then we've got, 8 editing categories for reality and unstructured reality and nonfiction. It's too much, I would say.
Right.
Even for
They
me.
did structured tonight, but not unstructured. Am I correct? They're holding unstructured for some reason.
I think so.
Right. Yeah, they did structured and documentary special, but not unstructured.
Interesting. I wouldn't do it that way.
Are there any winners that you were really happy to see win tonight? Because I don't really pay attention to, the shows nominated in these categories personally.
It's always good to see RuPaul's Drag Race, and it won too. Leah Remini, I was a fan of that show. I watched every episode, and it's funny because she looked emotion. I don't know if she's just a really good actress. Maybe she was snubbed all those years for King of Queens, but she really looked like she had just been told you won the Emmy, and she gave a great speech. And so kudos to her. That was probably my favorite speech of the night. So it's happy that she won for the final season. Those are probably my big two. I was bummed Tiger King lost. Like I said, there's no chance it can count.
Yeah, I think Leah was the only one who really managed the type of emotion in her speech that you would get on a normal Emmy broadcast if it was live and you found out in the moment. So I really appreciated her bringing that to a pre-recorded session. That was nice to see. I thought it was also great to have RuPaul's Drag Race rewarded because it was a season that was really affected by the pandemic. They had to alter the whole finale, and so I'm sure those winners feel great getting some reward at the end of that journey. And I was I knew it wasn't going to happen, but I was hoping that Circus of Books could just win writing, which is its only nomination, I think, because I enjoyed that one, but I knew that wasn't going to happen. Oh well. You can't spread the wealth all the time.
Leah, was she the only actress that won an award tonight? I mean, it was for hosting, but maybe that's why her acceptance speech was a little beyond the others. But one of the documentaries that I watched that I was interested to see win a category tonight was "Don't F with Cats" won for writing. So that was a surprising one for me. That's I thought was pretty interesting.
If you haven't watched it, you guys,
it's disturbing, but it's really worth watching.
All right, maybe I will add it to the list. Except now it's already won the Emmys.
It's short. I think it's like 4 or 5 episodes. I think I watched it all in one day, so it just give yourself a few hours and watch it. It's very, very eye-popping.
I was just going to say that we had another performer win with narrator. That was David Attenborough, and he was talking about how he wanted to make his speech so short, but he spent so long talking about how he wanted it to be short that I don't know if it really was.
He's the narrator. I mean, he's used to talking a lot.
All right.
Apollo 11 won a lot, and I almost wonder for a second if the voters got confused and they thought they were voting for Apollo 11 in documentary nonfiction special when they voted for the Apollo.
I mean, that's pretty much why I had it since the Prediction Center opened, and then a couple hours before the Prediction Center closed, I thought, okay, that's ridiculous. So I switched away from it.
What did you switch to at the last second?
Oh, I don't know, something.
It was Beastie Boys becoming the great.
Beastie Boys, yeah.
She also had a great speech for the win for the Apollo. It's a great speech, and actually, that was one of the only political moments that she put in a great quote in there about what you say there. Even those with their boots on their necks can't help but sing along, which was a great tribute to that theater.
There were a lot of clips of Michelle Obama and Becoming just lost everything.
Yeah, I saw a lot of predictions for Becoming. It was the odds front runner in that category. But Becoming kind of has worse reviews from the public, from critics, than really anything that has won that category. But I thought, maybe it could happen, and that would be, an example of how things are different this year. But again, that wasn't the case. All right, so let's move on to tomorrow's show. So tomorrow we've got a lot of variety categories. So Marcus, what are you looking forward to seeing there?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I'm looking forward to it, but something we can expect to see happen is SNL dominate. The past, 5 or 6 years, SNL has just had a rebirth in terms of the Emmys. It wins over and over and over. It's the most rewarded show in Emmy history, and we can expect that number to climb tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, I have it winning 1 award tomorrow, so I guess that's a climb.
Which one? Directing?
2, I guess. Yeah, directing and sketch series. The TCA Awards did come out today, and they awarded Black Lady Sketch Show. So that one has a chance. And then we've also got Drunk History, which was a casualty of the pandemic. I wonder if there's any sympathy for that show after all the Emmy nominations that it's received over the years.
Yeah.
I kind of wish they just combined the variety with reality and just did a 2-hour show tonight instead of dragging this out over 6 nights, as you said. Well, 5 nights for Creative Arts and then the main ceremony on Sunday.
They went so quick tonight. They could have too. They really kept the pace going. It would have been easy to sit through more awards. I'm looking forward to tomorrow night because there's, I think, the showdown for live variety specials, probably the Tony Awards versus live in front of a studio audience. And as someone who covers a lot of Broadway for us, it's an industry that could certainly use an award or some good news since it's still shuttered. So looking interested to see what happens there.
Do you think that would be the reason why the Tony Awards could win? Just because people want to, pay their respects to Broadway?
I think so. And they just announced that it's going to happen in the fall. They don't have an exact timeline yet, but they all of a sudden came out of nowhere and said, just kidding, we're doing it this fall sometime, stay tuned. So it is back in people's minds.
I will say something we didn't mention is the Survivor moment that was at least 3 minutes long. It's celebrating the 20 years of the show and how the crew is the hardest working crew. Survivor hasn't won an Emmy in a long time. I'm afraid to look up how long it's been since Survivor won an Emmy. So it's good to know that the Emmy users at least recognize the show and put a little moment on the virtual award show.
Yeah, I always wish Jeff Gross would kind of come back into the host field because I think he does a great job on that series and is so much more, seemingly, at least to a viewer's eye, so much more involved than many hosts are.
Yeah, and I mean, he won 4 in a row and he was never nominated again, which is so strange. RuPaul is totally going to beat the record this year. Right now they're tied, and if RuPaul wins on Saturday, I think it is, then RuPaul will have the record.
Unless the
variety special, because will Dave Chappelle competing with Dave Chappelle eliminate him? Will he cancel himself out? I mean, the Mark Twain prize isn't really something that he would get the award for, but it's interesting that he's nominated. Basically, his specials, 2 of his specials are in that category.
I think that people are aware enough that would not be award for him. So I feel like there is a clear choice here. But yeah, we'll see. Tomorrow we've got our first matchups between The Daily Show and Last Week Tonight. Marcus, I think you're on the Daily Show train with me for Talk Series at the main ceremony. And Denton and Sam, how are you feeling about that race?
I just switched to Last Week Tonight. Just because it always wins. So that's a definite category of seeing where we are with the Emmys and voters and. But I had the Daily Show for a long time, and I recently just switched back. So we'll see.
Yeah, I know people were talking about The Daily Show, but I always kind of just thought John Oliver would stay there and continue his winning streak. And I don't know, after tonight, with some of, as we've discussed, it seems like standard winners and what you would expect. I don't think I'm going to go. I don't think I'm going to go to The Daily Show. I'm going to stick with John Oliver.
That is a good point. But I mean, I will add John Oliver, who I watch every week. I absolutely love him. He's not going to win every year. Eventually, someone is going to beat him. So if not this year, maybe next year. I mean, it's not going to be like a 10-year winning streak that The Daily Show with Jon Stewart had.
I'm sorry, why not?
It can't. It just won't happen. Eventually, somebody will overcome. Maybe just for a year, like when Top Chef beat Amazing Race for 1 year, and then the next year it was Amazing Race again.
But it's not going to be a show that's also been on for so long. I mean, I could see that happening from a new show that wows people, but it's harder for me to see that coming from a show that's been on longer.
Look, you're never going to win the Emmy predictions contest by just going with the front runners. You have to take chances here or there, like little chances. So I'm going with that. I'm going with Trevor Noah. I'm all in. I'm not changing.
You're right.
But sometimes you take the wrong chances.
Yeah, I'm going with Trevor Noah for
about our
the main
guest
ceremony.
predictions because I won't be here for Saturday.
Yeah, sure.
What,
Go
Riley?
ahead. Okay, I was just saying that I'm going with Trevor Noah for the main category, but tomorrow we've got editing and writing. And I'm actually predicting John Oliver for both of those ones, just because the writer's branch has never really been a fan of Trevor Noah. He has not been nominated for writing before. He has not been nominated the last couple of years at the Writers Guild Awards, where they have like 9 nomination slots because they have multiple categories. So for him to get a nomination this year is already huge growth. I don't know if he's going to be able to go all the way to a win. And then in terms of editing, it's remarkable that Trevor Noah has an editing nomination, well, The Daily Show does this year, because they submitted 8 times in the category. So they already overcame vote splitting to get this far. They're nominated against 2 episodes or 2 segments from last week's night. But I feel like there is a clear choice between them with the Eat Shit Bob segment. So I'm thinking that Last Week Tonight will still win both of those, and Trevor Noah will go on to win the main award. So if The Daily Show is able to win one of those, then I'll feel even more confident in my prediction for the main ceremony. And Marcus, do you want to talk about guest stars?
Yes, I think my internet's going in and out. So if you lose me, just forget about me. Does everyone think Eddie Murphy for comedy guest actor?
Yeah.
What about comedy guest actress? I switched today to Maya Rudolph SNL. I had Maya Rudolph The Good Place, but The Good Place has never won an Emmy. SNL wins guest category all the time, so I made a switch there.
I mean, that's kind of why I have Wanda Sykes, because Marvelous Mrs. Maisel just wins acting categories all the time.
I have Wanda Sykes as well.
My hesitation with Wanda Sykes is that it's such a small. I mean, she's amazing at embodying Mom's Mabley, but it's a really, really limited screen time. She just kind of appears and disappears in a extra long episode, that season finale. So I don't know. Who knows if it means anything anymore? But I mean, if they're going up against people with like meaty roles and SNL hosts who have a whole episode structured around them, so Wanda Sykes is certainly not a slam dunk for me.
I mean, yeah, you would hope that somebody wouldn't be able to come on screen for a couple minutes and walk away with an Emmy, but here we are.
It's happened before.
I will say, to Sam's point, they really do like rewarding supporting performances in the guest categories, like Luke Kirby and Jane Lynch last year. Those are supporting characters. They've been in throughout the whole thing, and Wanda Sykes is not. I think the only counterexample to that would be like SNL guest stars, or Cat Williams was in just one episode of Atlanta. But other than that, if you look at the recent history of these guest categories, it's usually someone that's in it a lot, but but they're in so few episodes that they can go guest for that specific season. Samira Wiley, Bradley Whitford.
Yeah, that's why I think Maya Rudolph has a good shot.
Yeah.
And what are your other guest thoughts, Marcus? Get them off your chest while you're here.
Andrew Scott for Black Mirror, and then Cicely Tyson. Listen, she campaigned this year. Cicely Tyson even did, interviews from home on her phone. So I'm saying now is her time. It's the final season of How to Get Away with Murder. Now or never. I think it's her.
I've picked Cicely Tyson every year. And I did again, knowing that I'll probably lose again. But I agree. I think I feel like they need to give it to her. So I hope this is her time as well.
I picked her as well, but it's the one I'm least confident about because they kept passing her over and over again every time we thought they were going to. But I figure I'll be wrong once more. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got her as well. I feel like nobody makes sense in that category, and nobody feels entirely wrong either. I feel like any of the 6 can take it. That's the hardest category of the creative arts.
Ooh.
Yeah, because I could see Cherry Jones taking it pretty easily as well.
I could, yeah. I wish
it was very well respected.
And like we were just saying, when Cherry Jones won for Handmaids, that's a character that's been in multiple episodes, and for Succession, she was only in 1 or 2. So it's not the type of role they like to reward, but it's Cherry Jones, and they effing love her.
Yes, they should. She's Cherry Jones. She's amazing.
I have her at number 2 in my number 2 spot.
Well, that's excellent, and I feel like we've covered these first nights of the Emmys. We will be back several more times this week, and we will also be here for the pre-show and post-show for the actual Emmys on Sunday. So stay tuned on Gold Derby. Goodbye.